So we're on a mission to help business owners get out of their businesses because uh, most people we talk to and we hear they're in it and they don't like it. It's enjoyable up front for a little while. You know, you got that your first 12 months, 18 months of excitement, enjoyment. Man, I say 18 months might even be 5, 6 years, and we're still hearing like people are still in it and they don't realize they're not working on it. And not that you don't have to, not that you might want to be out, you might enjoy it, but you want to have the option to be in or out. And we've been talking about this 30-minute, this 30-day test. Could you leave your business for 30 days? What would happen when you got back? Would it be thriving? Did it go up in revenue? Did things improve while you were gone? No contact? Or is it an absolute train wreck? It's a great question to ask yourself as a business owner. What would that look like? And today we're going to talk about hiring, firing excellent employees and how to find them. And Sean is a master at that. He's done a whole bunch of it. So we're going to dig in deep today, and there'll be some value here. If you've not hired an employee yet, this one's for you for sure. And you might be thinking, I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to do that. Well, guess what? You'll never will be. And so you got to get yourself ready. And we're also going to discuss that today as well. So yeah, man, let's jump in. Sean, what would you like to start with? So maybe you could start with what your initial process was when that first happened for you. Kind of talked about that in a previous episode, but today we're going to dive a little deeper. That will be some actionable things to help people.
Yeah, and I just did a YouTube video on this, about a 10-minute YouTube video too. So check out our YouTube channel. We can also put the link in the show notes too for easy access. I kind of go a little bit more in depth in that in detail. But for starters, man, for me, it was like attractiveness, right? Day trading attention. So if you're a new business owner, even if you're 5 years, 10 years into business ownership, like for me, it's about being attractive, right? Looking the par online in social media nowadays, especially all the free different places to be, because you're just a brand, right? As far as for your business, not only for your customers and your community, but is being attractive. And because people come and work from my experience, people come and work for individuals who have that sense of the leader, the vision, the belief, the hope, like, oh, this individual can get me to possibly where I want to go, right? And whether that's molding or designing the life. I know for a lot of my team members, I'm very big on how can I serve? How can I impact you? What is it that we can do to get you to where you want to go? And so you do that by, for me, it was about being attractive on social media, so I could get my name, my brand, my business out there more. And so I leveraged every single platform that I possibly can. And going back to 2015, a lot of our target audience, a lot of people that were following were on Facebook. So I spent a lot of my time on there doing videos, posts, and just basically letting my community know, family, friends, everybody in my inner circle, that what I was trying to do. And then just here's the key ingredient. This is what a lot of people miss, is like you can go in ChatGPT, you can go Google and do all these different things, but actually do it. But actually stay consistent with going out there continuously, regularly, that you're looking for hiring. Like you should always, in my mind, like you should always be hiring, like always rolling a hiring post, always letting your family and friends know, always you're at a restaurant, you're in an elevator, whatever it may be, is asking the question, because you never know where somebody may be in their life.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know if you want to steer it towards like how we can attract and how we can hire somebody within 30 days, or
Yeah, I
just kind of
think
overall.
maybe a good place to go is to figure out how do you determine, because someone will know, well, I need this person. I would like to have this handled, right? That one aspect. And so obviously the thought process there is then, oh, well, I'll post for this position or I'm going to look for that. How do you know that you're looking for the right things, like to make sure that person is going to be the right fit? Like, how do you determine what are the parameters for this
Yeah.
person? Because you could have them covering too much, right? And you're going to hire a person and they're not going to be able to do what it is that you want them to, and it's going to be a bust, right? Or yeah, how did you determine that?
Yeah. So early stages, so I look at it from two different viewpoints. So if you got a new business owner standpoint from 0 to 12 months, even 0 to first 3 years, and then even somebody from 3 to 5, even 5 to 8 years, right? It's the individual that you are. So typically you're going to attract the people that that the person that you are. And what I mean by that is like, I was a business owner my first year, and I was attracting certain types of individuals that come to work to me. Meaning, like, whatever came out of my mouth, whatever the social media post was, whatever I was, how people identified me, that's typically what I attracted inside the office. And so what I meant by that was is like, if I came across as like this high energetic guy, charisma, seems to know what he's talking about, believes in what he's talking about, has hope, has belief, then that's the type of people I was going to attract. I didn't know this at the time, of course, but to answer your question, over the years, I've learned that, and if somebody's listening to this as a business owner, is before like you put anything out there, right? And from my experiences, you want to know exactly, you want to have a target audience on who you're looking for that candidate. You want to know what, and it doesn't have to be this like long drawn out, 2-page summary of like what exactly who you're looking for. It can just be some bullet points. And for me, one was commitment. I love commitment. And that would be the question that I would ask. Are you committed? Okay, what am I committed to, Sean? Well, let's look at the history of your employment, right? They've been with 15 different companies in the last 6 months. Right. So are they a committed person? No, not really. Maybe they just haven't found their calling. I don't know. But history typically repeats itself. So for me, commitment was a big thing. And the reason I'm breaking this down before I put anything out there, like I make sure that how I come off video on the post, I attract a certain type of individual on who I want to come and work for us, right? And so they go through this process and in the hiring, and then there's certain things that key components, keywords like, are you eager? Are you hungry? Are you determined? Are you committed? And okay, and if they're not, right, on their resume or their history or based on what they've said, they'll come up with a reason, right? Typically the candidate will. And then maybe they haven't had a leader like us. So maybe we can mold them into this beautiful individual. And that is where I have found that works best. I use the what is it, the Ray Kroc philosophy, where basically, if you go into McDonald's, you can take an individual that's basically like, hey, I just want to show up for a paycheck, but I'm reliable, I'm hungry, I'm committed. And you can give them a cause, and you can give them a vision, and you can give them mentorship and personal guidance. They take that mindset from showing up from a 9 to 5 to a mindset of like, the sky's the limit. I can do, right, because this person believes in me. This person's giving me hope. This person is giving me the tools to get to where I want to go, and they're serving and impacting me. That's who I'm attracting,
Mm.
right? And I'm able to take those individuals, those employees, and take them from wherever they were, 10% to 50% to 60%. And so I try to spell that out across marketing, across the things that we do when they go through the interview process.
And you've learned all this through sheer experience, and you've gotten yourself after a decade of experience to get you here. And there was a lot of trials, errors, I'm sure, to get there. Like, what would you tell a new business owner? Maybe they've hired someone already, their first person, or they're about to. What would you tell them not to do? Maybe what was some of the things that you learned up early, like, oh, don't do that, or hey, I did this and I learned this lesson from it that was pretty valuable. Do you have anything that jumps to mind?
Yeah. So for me, man, if you go back, the first like 24 months in my insurance company, I was just hiring anybody that would say yes, basically. If they
Mm,
wanted to come in and sell, you're hired. If you wanted to come in and work for me, you're hired. Right. And so fortunately, on the service side of things, I had individuals that come in, and I still have the same individual with me today. And that just, I think that the Lord works in mysterious ways, and we got connected through a mutual friendship, and she's still with me today, and we've grown together, and it's just been a beautiful journey. But on the sales side of things, like, my mentality was not the same in that department, meaning like, I just want sales to come in and just kill what they eat, right? And so it was almost like that was a big mistake. That was a wrong mindset. Whereas I didn't want just people to come in and sell. And at the same time, when I was hiring, I was thinking outside the box. I was like, I need to bring in cash flow. I can't be the only one that's going to be bringing in. So I was trying to bring in subcontractors. I was trying to bring in contractors. I was trying to bring in internal salespeople.
mm,
Well, I was focusing on the wrong thing, Ewan. I was focusing on the sales. I was focusing on cash flow. I was focusing on the wrong things. What you should be focusing on is, from my experience, is what are their values? What are their beliefs? What is it that they want to do? Why are they saying yes? Why are they coming to work for you?
That's such a
Right?
flip right there, right? That's
It
such
was a
a
huge flip.
if people haven't done that before, maybe they've been hiring for years and they've had a lot of turnover and they're like, what values? Never thought of that before. What led you to that? Like what was the first time you're like, you know what? I'm gonna try this values thing out with this person. And then you saw this result. Like, do you remember when that first
Oh,
happened?
100%. Yeah. So the first 12 months, within the first 12 months, I hired my first employee who helped me, Janice, on the service side. And then I hired my first sales guy. He came in. I proposed a proposal as, hey, you come in as a contractor, you sell underneath my code, my agency, blah, 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 all these other things, right? And so that was it. That was the agreement. There was no control. There was there was no, hey, this is our vision. We're aligned together. We're doing it for the bigger cause. Like, it was just basically, you do your own thing. And as long as you're selling, I won't say anything.
Mm.
And so I learned really quickly, like, yes, he's selling, but we're not in unison. We're not on the same page with things. There was frustration, there was attitude, there was, there boundaries. There wasn't boundaries drawn, meaning, like, as far as, like, who is the leader here, right? And so,
Hmm.
not to get off in the weeds, but because the conversations were just focused on selling, 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 it caused frustration to me and struggle to me, because I'm like, well, we're not just here to sell. We're here to do all these other things. And I didn't know how to propose that. I didn't know how to communicate that. I didn't know how to effectively communicate what it is that why we're showing up every day.
Mm.
And then why we're showing up every day, even though we don't feel like it. That was another thing I ran into, is when individuals just joined my team, is I soon realized, I'm like, yeah, they can sell when they want to sell or
Yeah.
when they feel like it. Right.
Hmm.
But then the other days when they don't feel like it, which is, we're all human beings, which is a lot of the time during the month, they can show up whenever they want to. Right.
Mm.
Or have an attitude, or have, you know, or it just causes a lot of tension, because you're working for that employer, you're working for that business for the wrong reasons, right?
And
The
that's a miserable
conversations
place to
weren't
be
had.
for your employees, right? Like, and as a business owner, you have to step outside of what you would want in that case,
Right.
right? Because otherwise, you can become a tyrant. Like, I want this result, and you're a tool that I'm going to use. You're a cog in a wheel that I'm going to use to get my result, and that is a disaster, because you're not dealing with a cog in a system. You're not dealing with some piece of machinery. It's a human being who has a life, emotions, feelings, and there's things that motivate that person. There's things that get them
Yes.
discouraged. So being able to tap into, what does this person value? Because if you know what they value, then you could really open up a space for them to step into it,
Yes.
and you're going to get the very best out of them. You're going to give them a taunt. But what are human beings like? Well, they don't want to be squeezed by anybody, right? That's first off. Even a baby at 6 months, like even 3 months, you can't make a baby do what you want them to do. They will resist, and that baby will resist for the rest of their life. So that's what human beings do. So if you know they're going to resist when you try and make them do something, that's not a good situation. So you'd have to step out and think, well, how could I get them to want to do it? You might have to give them some control, some form of autonomy, right? Some form where they can feel like they have some control over the direction that they're going. And by finding out their values, I'm sure that really, you don't have to do much, right? Like, you don't have to squeeze hard or at all if you find that space. And I know you've done a phenomenal job of that, where you guide
Yeah.
people. You're not letting them be willy nilly free, go do what you want. It's like, no, this is the space, and you get to be whoever you want to, and you can make it as big as you want. Go
Yes.
play.
Yeah, because it's on their terms, right? It's the servant leader that is proposing that. Whereas before, if you're the tyrant, if you're the ego driven, if you're the pride driven leader, right? Which is, your business owners and entrepreneurs are typically getting squeezed in so many different directions. And so you feel that pressure, right?
Mm.
Not only in the business, but your employees, right? It trickles down from the leader, from the business owner to the customers. Well, it's going from the leader to the employees, and then from the employees to the customers, rest assured. So if you're having a retention problem like I was, the only way to fix that is to start working on yourself, and working harder on yourself, and working on your business, spending that X amount of time per week And that is one of the things, like you said, we're diving deeper onto, is because it's an epidemic, right? A lot of business owners, a lot of self-employed, a lot of entrepreneurs are spending so much time in the trenches, rolling up their sleeves, and they're not coming up for a breath of air. And they're wondering why they're losing employees. They're wondering why the customers, they're losing customers. It's because of you. It's because of the person in the mirror. And
Yeah.
that was me. Is I was losing my retention was through my not retention. What's the opposite of retention? Where you
Turnover.
lose.
Turnover.
Turnover. My turnover was so high. And I speak about it to this day. And we talk about it with my team members. I'm like, man, here I was, 3-5 years in business. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I was attracting, again, it goes back to what my comment was. I was attracting, I was a hungry guy. I was an eager guy. So I was attracting those guys. They were
Mm.
just as hungry. But then I was attracting other guys and gals like me because of what I say, like the things that I say and that come out of my mouth as a leader. That's typically what, a lot of your team members, a lot of what people fall in line and they do. So whatever
Yeah.
you talk about, wherever your focus goes, wherever your energy goes, that is typically where that is how your team members are playing that as well. That's
It's going to be a really tough pill for people to swallow because, they might be hearing, well, my employees suck. Like they're costing me money. Like if there's any negativity towards your employees, okay, well, what we're saying here is very gently, you got to look in a mirror, right? Because okay, there's certain things, right? There might be someone that's just bringing an absolute mess, which the owner's still responsible for that because you hired them,
100%.
right? You're still, they didn't have to be there. You allowed them to be there. But if you've got a quality person or a good hire and they're not motivated, they're got a negative attitude or things aren't quite like, there's something, like you said, the bottleneck. That's, you have to look in the mirror and where do you have to, and that's a tough, what advice would you give to a business owner on that? Because that's tough love right there, right? Because you're having to
Yeah.
look in the mirror. You'd have to accept, and I guess you'd have to think, this is not a negative. It's not a ding that you're just a terrible person. No, we all have things to work on. When you look in the mirror and say, okay, it's me. The reason I would want to find out what's not good about me that's showing up in my employees or my organization is because if I figure that out, well, then I change, they change. The result is my business grows and my people are happy. So
Yes.
is it worth it to look in the mirror to then say, swallow that hard pill of what area am I suffering in myself and be honest. And maybe you need an outside party to shed the light on you there. And that's also going to be very difficult. But what advice would you give them to be able to take that courage, have courage to do that?
Yeah, it'd be two pieces of advice. The first advice is, I mean, the two pieces of advice that I did myself and gave myself was one is looked at myself in the mirror and said, okay, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of losing and
Mm,
losing good people. I mean, I
yeah,
lost some good people, man.
yeah.
But guess what? The people that left, when I say good people to society, they may not have been a good people, but I looked at it from like I try to see the best in everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I mean that's just part of my strengths, God given talents, like maximizer. And
Hmm.
so I took extreme ownership. I looked at myself in the mirror. The reason these people left is because of you, Sean. And when I dissect that and reflect on that, it was just little things, right? It was the micro stuff. It was the things that I was saying. It was the things. I'm a hardcore dude. And so usually if you're a business owner, like the business owners that I know, if you're a business owner and you're an entrepreneur and you've been in business for 3, 5, 10 years, you typically, if you've been in business over 5 years, you've got a strong backbone.
Not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, not for the faint of heart. You've got a strong backbone, and I know that shows up, and I know your employees feel that, to this day. But however, there has to be a mutual playing ground. There has to be a mutual understanding. There has to be a mutual respect. And that is where my team members, business partners are today. They know I'm a hardcore driver. They know I'm an ambitious guy. They know I'm an energetic, charismatic. They know all these things, but they also know that where I struggle.
And they know that you have their back. I would say that's one of the most important things
That,
conveying that you have the very best intentions for these people. Once they
yes,
really know that, so even if it is a difficult moment, they would have to say, "Oh, but I know he's always got my back. He's always looking to have the best outcome here." So what he's saying is really, it's he's loving me right now, perhaps, right? Like maybe not those words, but it's a form, like you're giving them love by
yes.
having that tough conversation. And if they know that, they're going to accept it so fast and be like, you know what, you're right, thank you, you are the guide here, right? You are the boss, you've got the experience. So if you're telling me this, I trust you. I'm not going to resist. I'm going to take this as positive and go do that. And then they're leveling up themselves, right? You're almost like a coach, right? Like at that point in coaching them to be a better version of themselves. But it takes that trust though. And you had to earn that they
Yeah,
knew that you had their back.
it takes the trust by the actions, right?
Yeah.
Doing the saying the things and then actually doing them. And here's the key ingredient is repeating that week after week after week. And that's the
Mm.
conversations that have to be had is, hey, I'm here to serve you. What can I do for you? And 9 times out of 10, if I ask that question, they're like, oh no, it's all good. Everything's good. Okay. And then, there's other systems and processes you can put in place to make sure it's good, right? What's working, what's not working, taking them to lunch, having a phone call, Zoom call, whatever it may be, and really
You send
digging
your
deep.
employees out for massages. I know that, right? Which
90
that's
minute
just above and
massages,
beyond,
baby.
man.
Yep.
Yeah.
90-minute
I
massages.
mean, I hear that and you're like, man, someone's doing that. I remember, was it when I first graduated college and I got my green card. Finally got my green card. And I could do the first job I could, which was selling cars at Tomball Ford here in Texas. And the leader, he was the GM, and he was a hardcore dude. Reminds me of you, Sean. And he really took me under his wing. And I remember I had like I don't know what it was. I pulled a muscle, and he's like, "I'm gonna send you for a massage. Go this." Ended up being this his name was, I know it was my first massage, was this guy called Frank. He was a giant muscular dude. And I was like, I've never done this before, but which that was his own experience. But the fact that he cared about me, I was like, man, I bled for him, right? Like I would walk across glass because I wanted his approval. I wanted to
Yes.
work hard, and he did that for me because he took me under his wing, and he must have learned that somewhere. But he was a hardcore dude as well, so I knew it was serious. So hearing that, it's important, man. Like that you look after your people, because look what the outcome is. You look after them, they look after you, right? So we've
Yes.
talked about how to find them, especially local, like really use your network, right? Use social media and warm market to find good people, right? You talked about that, and we didn't really talk about you could go put postings on out there. I don't know if you've done a lot of that, but
Yeah, I've done
we could.
Indeed, I've done ZipRecruiter, I've done postings. The best type of individuals in people that I know that are business owners as well, the best type of people that come in have been referrals. I
Yeah,
mean, the referrals are the
that's
best
important to
ones because if
know.
you're going to
I
stick your
wonder at
neck
what
out
point does that
somewhere.
stop. Like you get so big at some point. Like I still think personal referrals is the best way for a big business to grow.
Well, think about it. If you got 20 employees, right? That's 20 different individuals that you have in there that are on a common ground of interest,
Yes.
that are on common ground of beliefs, values, mission, vision, and overall the company. If you do it right. Now, if you got
Yeah.
20 hyenas in there, and then you're
Yeah.
going to get that's going to compound to other hyenas. So that could take over. But if you build this thing right foundationally and you build 5, 10, 15, 20, small business employees, all the employees that are in there, right, especially a right-hand man, a partner, and you start intentionally being the one that's like, hey, we're hiring. Hey, we're looking. This is who we're looking for. Let's spread, let's share, let's be intentional about recruiting. And then you can throw things on there, right? So I'll share a story. I love this freaking story on how to hire. So I guess actually I got a couple. Are we talking about that, Ewan? How to
Yeah. Hit it, man.
okay.
Absolutely.
So two stories, man. So I'm a big believer in like if I see somebody that's doing a good job on like certain, I'd look for certain traits, right? And this was 2 years ago, and I look for basically like grit, hustle, determined, somebody maybe down on their luck. In other words, like they haven't had a mentor in their life, because that was kind of me. I didn't really have 10, 15 years ago. I didn't really have a mentor, somebody to take me underneath my wing. So I look for somebody like that in their body language. And people may be
Mm.
asking, like, well, how do you notice that? I don't know. It's just God given talent. Like I can tell when
Mhm.
people are kind of struggling, because I
Yeah.
want to be that guide for them.
Yes.
And I was at Chewy's with me and my wife Kendra, and I was sitting there, and still I'm a big believer in like I'm always hiring. Like I've always been told by mentors, always be hiring, always be looking for winners, because you may have to talk to 1,000 people, but if you out of those 1,000 people, one of those may be a part of your dream team. And I've been doing this for the last 10 years, and we've built dream teams,
You
right?
get good at that, right? That's a skill, getting
100%
good
the
at picking,
skill.
selecting. If you're always looking, well, then you've
Selecting.
really learned. Like maybe 5 years ago, well, you would have selected that guy. 5 years later, you
Yes,
don't select that guy because
exactly.
I see
Yes.
that little thing. So that's a really important thing for business owners. Always be looking. You said that maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, I've never thought like that before because I've not hired. I've not built like you have, and had employees. And so when I heard, I was like, man. I've been watching people now. I watch them. I'm like, would they be good for this? Would they be good for that? Now, I'm not making any moves, or I'm just observing. Like what all goes into that. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah. And so I made my move. And so I said, okay, well, he's got grit, he's got hunger, he's friendly. And I don't know, I just liked his vibe, right? If you're a business owner, you know when somebody's vibe when they got it. And especially like it's always been known in the restaurant industry, it's typically a good place to, for service or sales. They just got the hustle and the grind. And
Mm,
so I told him, I was like, hey man, tell me a little bit about yourself. And he stopped and talked and he was very, presentful. And I said, you open to new opportunities, right? Just kind of see and goes, oh, what you got? And I knew that's the question I got, right? You open to opportunities, like, yeah. And he goes, all right, let's exchange information. And that's it. And I just wanted to keep it that. I didn't want to go on the deep because he was working and respected his time. We exchanged information. I sent out a text message right after that, said, hey, really like, really liked your energy. I really liked how you presented yourself. Here's some information about the business. And if you're interested, contact me. Put the ball in his court. Didn't hear a word from him. He said, hey, nice meeting you, blah, blah, blah. Didn't hear from him 3 months. Texted me and said, hey, I'm open to hearing what you got to say.
mm,
Perfect. No problem. Took him through the interview process and the rest is history. He's been our top insurance agent for several months now, been with us over 2 years and becoming
brilliant.
a leader within the organization just because of that. Second story is 4 years ago. There was an individual that worked for another Allstate agency that I tried to recruit from that is friends with one of the guys, one of my top agents that works at the insurance company. And I've met this guy at Christmas parties, that we've had crawfish boils that you've mentioned. And I said, hey, man, you know me, kind of forward thinking, always hiring and always looking for winners. I'm like, I really like your attitude. You're best friends with this guy. And I really like how you present yourself. You open to new opportunities. And he goes, man, I'm not happy where I'm at right now, but I'll keep you in mind. I said, all right, no problem. 6 months goes by, followed up with him. Hey, how's everything going? Right? Just touching base.
Mm,
Consistency plus execution equals success. When it comes to hiring, attracting, consistency plus execution. And so he said, nope, all is good. Another year, 2 years goes by. He follows up and says, hey, I'm intermittent right now where I'm at. I don't really like what's going on with the leadership. What do you have for me? And at that time, I wasn't able to dish out the salary that he was asking for. I said, but hey, here's my proposal. I tried to mold it to what he was looking for. And sometimes it just doesn't happen, right? We didn't have the budget for it. We weren't in the, we were that's kind of when my leadership, I was really honing in on who I was becoming as a leader.
mm,
And so I was only stuck with what I knew, right? Because as a leader at that time, and I could only offer and present what I had known. This was, like I said, 4 years ago. And so fast forward up until about 6 months ago, one of my top agents came to me and said, hey, you remember so-and-so? He's interested and this is what he's going through at his company right now. And he's ready to get out. Can we mold it? Can we find something? Now, because I've been working on myself, harder on the business these last 6, 7, 8 years, we were able to come to a mutual playing field, a mutual respect. He had followed us for 4 years, Ewan,
mm.
and I had worked with this other individual that had helped recruit this individual. And we finally were able to get on the same playing field find out what the salary he wanted and a good bonus structure that he wanted. And it was the right time, right fit. And now this guy that we've been trying to recruit for 4 years, just little drips. And he's been with us for 3 months now. And the team loves him. Customers love him. I love him. He's even showing up to the run club and all these different things. It's just like,
Yes.
if I would have never have laid that mustard seed, if I would never have dropped that and looked for the best in these individuals, and then here's the key ingredient: work harder on becoming the individual, the leader, the servant leader that I needed to become for these individuals, and working on the business, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I don't think they say yes.
And I'm hearing part of that too. You know, a good business owner, a good leader, that to build a business, they got to be good at sales. All business owners are sales people, right? And people might think sales people a dirty word. See, man, it's so important. Like it's a beautiful thing, right? Like you're giving something to people that they need. You're exchanging value for that, right? That's what sales is. And so you transition. You're selling your business to have high quality people come in so that
Yes,
you can expand that business, right? As a leader, you really shift that perspective. And that might be hard for someone to think right now they're going to start talking to someone today in 4 years time. Like you're probably speaking to some people today, like, and in 4 years could be a perfect fit.
one hundred
And it's
percent.
worth waiting for because you're just going to keep planting those seeds. And if
Yes.
you're not thinking like that, well, then your business isn't going to be where you want it to be, right? But if you start having that mindset, man, you're really thinking about it, the expansion of how to make your future self love yourself even more. Like how much
Yes.
easier it would be by having those awesome people just popping in just at the right time that will expand and excel so much faster. That's what I heard there, man. It's super cool, and that you're always doing that. And we're running out of time, but we never got to the firing part because that's an important piece. But we can maybe save that for another time. I don't know if you want to dig in. But because we, this is how you find them.
Yeah.
Warm contacts, referrals, always be looking, always adding people to that. And then to retain them, we discussed that, right? Which is how not to do it and then how to do it, and working on yourself and being the leader, and making sure that their values are connecting with the space that you've created for them, right? As a business owner. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, the firing portion as a leader, that's tricky, right? And
Yeah.
is there
Well,
any,
but at this point, from my experience at this point in the process as a leader, you'll empower the individuals, like the people that are at the agency. They're empowered to, like, yeah, I got it.
mm,
So what my service leader just terminated. We terminated one a few months ago,
mm.
and and because she had that empowerment and that encouragement to be able to do that, right? And I systematically removed myself from that by empowering her, giving her the confidence in doing that. The lady
That's
just
got to be
wasn't.
music to people's ears right there, building their business. You don't even have to fire. That's going to be someone else
Oh,
that
dude,
does
yeah.
that. I mean, and that's the
Nobody
way that
enjoys
you set your
firing, dude.
system up. What's that?
Nobody enjoys terminating. I don't know one
No,
business
it's
owner.
it's always going to be difficult. Kelly Roach mentioned that on her episode with us that released. She said that she promoted two people in her business, and she had to let someone go that same day. And that person had been there for 4 years, and she didn't want to let them go, and that's difficult. That's a tough thing to do. It's a skill, to be able to make sure it's done right so that it doesn't impact the business, because it
Well,
can.
one or two things are going to happen. In our case, because of the way, if you look at the businesses that we've built and the people that are at these businesses, we are such a tight niche, right? Meaning, like, we're here for a common cause, we're here for a vision, we all have each other's backs. And what happens with that? The people that are not a good fit are going to weed themselves out.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. We don't even have, like, because I don't like terminating, we don't even have to terminate them. They leave on their own
Yeah.
terms,
Yep.
right?
It's not going
And
to
it's
work
just
for
a
them.
mutual understanding. It's like, hey, this isn't working out. And so a
Yeah.
lot of times they'll roll out. And that's what's happened over the last few years. If somebody's not a good fit, they're out. And we find it out in a matter of, we find out within a week, a month. And we've gotten better at it because it's just trial and error. But now we know what to look for. Now we ask the right questions, like, what, that's that. It really comes down to the pre-interview, right? It's like, if you know exactly what you're looking for, it's probably a good episode on what to look for.
Yeah.
Uh, as far as doing pre-interviews and stuff like that in individuals. Well, how do you know what to look for if you don't know what you're looking at in the mirror? Right. And
Yeah.
that was me. I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, well, what is it who are these people that are going to be representing this brand, this company, this business? Do I want to come and work for? Well, I didn't have a clue because I wasn't working on myself or the business.
Mm.
Right. I was
It's
spending so much time
complex.
in the,
That's
huh?
complex, man.
Very complex,
Because it's so
but
easy to
there's
say out
hope.
here, just find a person, fill the spot. No, man, you have to, like, that's never, when is that easy thing ever happened? Like it takes work, takes effort. Like, why is it that only 1% of businesses succeed after the 10-year period? Like, very few are still going because the owner, the leader. That's
100%.
that's pretty much it. The thought process that goes through their mind, the steps they took that they could have gone this way, and they went that way instead because they didn't do the work. Um, if that's if that's the message that anybody hears, that's the most important thing to take away.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because then you're, like I said, we said in the last episode, it's like you're the bottleneck in the business. So if you're having high turnover, if you're having attitude problems, if you're having people that showing up late, if you're having people that are leaving early, if you're having people that are making mistakes, if you're having people that are not following the systems and processes, guess who it is? You, not
Yeah.
them. It's you.
Yep. Yep.
Right. And you have to ask yourself and scratch your head and go, okay, well, what am I missing? What am I doing? What am I not doing? Right. It's because there's a blind spot. And and here at Level Up Live, that's what we will be solving in the future, in these episodes and coming. And I know that's what we're excited to kind of share and roll out, and the things that we're doing is we're honing in because I want you guys, everybody listening to this, entrepreneurs and business owners that are going through this or resonate with a little bit what we're saying, like I want you to speed up that process and have the know-how, the blueprint to know to do exactly what to do and do the opposite of what I did, right? And to get to where you want to go, which is the designing the life that you want to live. And you do that by working harder on yourself, your business, than anything else.
Level up and live. That was
Level up and
awesome, dude.
live.
That was beautiful.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go.